Week 15 is here, and nearly every game has playoff implications. Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me. Before we get into the picks, I do want to point you to this video. I make a prediction for all 43 college bowl games. In the description of that video, I also have a link to an ESPN Bowl Pick'em contest. The winner of that contest will receive $50 from me. So you want to join that contest before Saturday. Let's take a look at our record as we always do, and for spreads, we've finally come out in the positive on our green picks. 12-11, still not great. We do have a losing record for yellow, and we're almost at 500 for red for a total of 53-63. Not ideal, but for totals, we continue to crush totals. 12-6, 22-12, and 35-27, meaning we are 73-47 overall. That is excellent. That is awesome. Let's keep it up. As I said at the beginning, a lot of playoff implications this week. This game, not so much. Easton Stick will play. He is the backup to Justin Herbert. Herbert will miss the rest of the season. And I think this is a blessing for the Chargers. I think when we've seen a lot of backups come in and join teams this year and play well and excel. So I think we see that again in this spot. I think this total at 34 is a bit of an overreaction from last week's 3-0 game we saw in Las Vegas. So I like the over here, and I like +3, but too many questions. This game doesn't matter. Both are low confidence. The next 3 games that will be discussed are Saturday games. There is a special for Saturday. I don't know why, but I'm not mad about it. And they're all 3 pretty solid games, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. The 1 o'clock slate is Minnesota and the Bengals. Again, Nick Mullins, a backup, is starting this one for Minnesota, and he's coming off a 3-0 win. He actually came in the fourth quarter and had more passing yards than Dobbs did for the entire first 3 quarters. So maybe it's a good thing for the Vikings, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. I think their defense will need to show up and keep this game close, which is why I like the under 38, even though it is a fairly low total. But I do like the Bengals to cover. I think they're playing extremely well. I think their win against the Colts was very impressive, and it is the Browning era. So I like their defense here as well. I like them to make a playoff push. So give me the Bengals -3.5 and the under in this one. The 4 o'clock game on Saturday is Steelers and Colts. I like the Colts -2.5. I think the Steelers are kind of stuttering a little bit. And the over 41.5, I'm really shocked at. That is a high confidence play. I think that total is too low. I know there's probably some stat out there about Tomlin after a loss that says we should not be fading the Steelers again after their loss on Thursday to the Patriots, but I'm going to fade them again. This team does not seems to have the ability to run the ball, even though they have Harris and Warren back there, which is perplexing to me. I believe Mitch Trubisky will play again. He didn't impress me too much on Thursday night. The Colts are back at home, where it seems they play much better and they score a lot of points. This is a must-win game for an AFC opponent. Both of these teams are sitting right at playoff contention, so it will mean a lot to both of these teams. And only one time this year has a Colts total in 14 games. Only one time has it gone under 39. So at 41.5, I do love the over. And the 8 o'clock game on Saturday is another treat. I mean, 3 really solid games. All 6 teams pushing for the playoffs. It should be a great Saturday. This one is bizarre. This one is just bizarre to me. It's so bizarre that I went digging to find out what am I missing. The Broncos +5 in Detroit, where we saw Detroit on Thanksgiving not long ago lose outright to the Packers. We saw them last week lose outright to the Bears. Now, that game was in Chicago. I feel like the Lions kind of secured this division in their mind and went on autopilot, and this is definitely a wake-up game. In 3 out of 4 quarters against the Bears, they did not put a point on the board. That is a problem, especially for an offense that has looked high-powered all season. So I am shocked that the Broncos are getting 5 points here, and I would imagine this trickles to 3.5 by kickoff. The data that I could find is that they could be potentially missing 3 defensive starters, so maybe that's why we see that high number, but I still don't think it's enough, because I think they were missing all 3 versus the Chargers last week, at least for a portion of the game. So a bit bizarre. Their totals, the Broncos totals, have gone under 47 for 10 straight weeks. So give me the under 47.5 in average confidence. Moving on to Sunday, we have the Battle of Orange Teams. I don't love this game at all. Too many questions, top to bottom. I would take the Bears plus 3.5, and I would take the over 37.5, which I realize the Browns at home play well and they play low games. Besides last week when there were 60-some points scored against the Jaguars, the Bears are 2-3 since Fields has returned. I know that this game doesn't matter to them as much as it matters to the Browns, but I think they play for pride here, knowing that they're going to get a high draft pick from the Panthers anyway. As for the Browns, they've allowed 27 points per game over their last 5, so that's why I like that over at 37.5. This game's kind of a skip for me, though. Another game that's a skip with too many questions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visit Green Bay, and I'm going with the same thing, plus 3.5 and the over for the away team. Tampa Bay is playing for their division, and Green Bay is playing for a wild card, and I don't know with this game what we're going to get. We see the Packers lose to the Giants, and I actually called that somewhat. I wanted the Giants points last week, and we got it. So I'm just skeptical on this Green Bay team, but their last 5 games have gone over this total of 41.5. So I'll play that again and ride this streak. But this game should be fun to watch, but I am staying far away from it in terms of betting on it. Another double red, and I apologize, but C.J. Stroud missed practice today with a concussion. I don't know what his status is. He is needed to play. This is kind of a must play for him. I can guarantee he passes concussion protocol and he starts this game. So I'll take plus 3 and the over for the dog again, the away dog. This is their last chance, Houston's last chance. I think that AFC is getting tight. This is just a need it more spot for them after last week's horrible loss to the Jets on the road. Going on the road again is not great, but I will back them one more time. Tennessee, though, was down 14 points to Miami with 3 minutes left and wins the game outright, which is pretty impressive. Tennessee doesn't have a realistic shot to make the playoffs. I think they're due for an emotional letdown, which is why I'm fading them. But again, not a game I'm really interested in. Interesting spot here, divisional opponents. We've seen this matchup a few weeks ago, Black Fridays when we got it, and Miami had their way. But I think the Jets come into this game a little more focused and a little more hungry after their loss. Now, their loss, that is, on Black Friday. They did win last week, and they looked good, and Zach Wilson looked good, and I think Zach Wilson will play good against this Miami defense. So plus 9, I think, is a gift, and over 37, I think, is a gift. I see this as a 27-21 Miami win, so I think we could go 10 or more points over this total. I think this total is fairly low. I also think Tyreek Hill is going to play for the Dolphins, and I think he needs to play. He might be the offense. He goes down, and their offense looked abysmal. But I do think this is a strange look-ahead game for Miami. They have Dallas next week, so that's definitely something that's going to be on their radar. So I don't know. This game just has a weird feel to me, a weird division feel, so I would take a total of over 37 with average confidence and a plus 9. That's a big number for the Jets. 6 points is just too many to give me for the Giants and Tommy DeVito, especially against a Saint team that has lost 3 out of their last 4. Yeah, they beat their division rival with Carolina last week, but that doesn't convince anybody of anything. New York, however, played a really solid game against Green Bay, and they have been playing solid for the last 3 weeks, and their bye was thrown in there as well. So plus 6 just feels like value to me. The only thing that scares me away is the Saints have more to play for in this game. Obviously, they're fighting for the NFC South, whereas the Giants are as good as done in terms of playoff conversation. So that's one thing that makes me a little nervous, but plus 6 I think is way too much. I thought this would be 2.5 to 3 before I looked at the lines, so I jumped all over plus 6 and the under 37, although I'm not confident in that. Divisional matchup, playoff implications, but I don't really care about this at all. I was a little shocked that the Falcons were only 3-point favorites. I figured it would be higher, although I hate this team. As for Carolina, you may be tempted to say, well, teams that are 1-14 or 1-13 are going to lose games just so they can get a draft pick, but they have to give their draft pick to the Bears anyway. So winning this game only hurts the Bears in terms of the draft, so they may be playing hard for it, which is why these are both red. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina wins this game outright, but I'm staying away from it regardless. Double red, once again, I'm sorry, guys. I just try to be honest, and I try to show you where I think there's value, and there's not going to be value on everything. But this is where the rubber meets the road for the Chiefs. They've lost 3 out of 4 games. That's right. The Kansas City Chiefs have lost 75% of their games in the last month. And I think this is just a can they handle the pressure game. This is a soft opponent who has nothing to lose, though, and they're off a dominating win against the Steelers on Thursday, so they get a little bit of a mini bye. 21 to 18 was the most points scored in a Patriots game since week 8. So their Thursday night matchup was the most points we've scored in over 7 weeks. We've seen scored in over 7 weeks. So that total is insanely low, 36.5. And it's scary because the Chiefs offense, sure, they could put up 30 themselves if they got everything together. That's why it's red, guys. I would lean the under 36.5, although I do think it's low. And I would take the Patriots plus 9.5 in a game that maybe they can slow the tempo a little bit, pressure Mahomes, and sneak out with a 7 to 9 point loss. Washington travels across the country to LA, where we see the Rams in the playoffs or right there on the edge. Game with big playoff implications for the Rams, and I don't know. Again, guys, a lot of these games, I want to be able to be super confident with you and really be able to hone in, and I can't do that. Washington's defense is horrible. It's actually the worst in the NFL. But off the bye, I think they come in with a game plan to slow down Matthew Stafford, whose team just put up 30 in Baltimore. So I realize that this under 49.5 looks dangerous, especially when LA allowed 37 points to be scored on them last week, but I just think this is a game where both defenses realize they need to do their part, and they both come in and do their part. So I like LA to win this one, but I think it's low scoring. I can see this being like a 28-14 game, and both of these minus 6.5 and the unders hitting. This game doesn't interest me, but anytime you give me 13.5 or 14 points in the NFL, especially when they are at home and it's a division matchup, I have to take the plus 13.5. I'm not sold on this Niners team. I know that's upsetting to people, and they're going to get mad at me because they beat the Cowboys and they beat the Eagles. I saw those games, guys. I watched them. All right. But I also watched the Niners lose 3 games this year and let Seattle hang around with Drew Lock, their backup quarterback. So plus 13.5, I think there's something there. Under 47.5, sure, I can see a backdoor cover incoming. I'd stay off of this one. A beautiful 4 p.m. game. Dallas visits the Bills, who had a massive win against Kansas City this last week. And as crazy as it is, I do lean Bills minus 1.5, only because Dallas has struggled on the road. They have lost all 3 of their games on the road, and they've been at home for 3 weeks. And I think the narrative is all about the Cowboys. And I don't blame anybody for talking about that. In fact, I was talking about it on my ratings video this week. I have the Cowboys as my NFC Super Bowl representative. But I think this is a tricky spot and a tough spot for them to go on the road to Buffalo, play this game, and know they have Miami next week. I just am a little bit worried about them in this spot specifically. So I would lean the Bills minus 1.5. I also think they have a must-win game in front of them, and that is this game. So they're going to keep their momentum from Kansas City. They finally have their pieces in the correct spots from the last few weeks, and they're going to get the job done minus 1.5, and also the under 50.5 is a high confidence play. I know both of these teams can put up points, but I think with both teams knowing the other team can put up points, it's kind of like that Washington-LA game. Both of the teams are going to come in and they're going to hunker down and play good defense, and we're going to see another low to mid-range scoring game like we saw with Bills in Kansas City last week. An exciting Sunday night game, or what should be an exciting Sunday night game. And I'm going to assume that Trevor Lawrence is going to be at full to 75% health. I know they lost to the Browns last week, and I know it's kind of an ugly game for Jacksonville. They couldn't get much going, but they still scored 30 points or 20 high 20 points. This defense of Jacksonville has allowed 30 in 4 out of their last 5, and Baltimore has scored 30 in 6 out of their last 7. I think this is going to be a game where Jacksonville lets Baltimore score, but they also keep up with them. And this is a game where you see both teams touching 30 and Jacksonville winning on a last-second field goal. That's my prediction. So 42.5 is your extra most bestest over play of the week, total play of the week. I think that is incredibly low, and I see this being fair at 49. 48.5. So you're getting almost a touchdown of value in my opinion. So that is my slam of the week. And lastly, our Monday night bird battle, Philadelphia, who has just lost some gut-wrenching ones the last 2 weeks, visit Seattle. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about this one. I would take Eagles -4, and I would take over 48.5 just because I can't take a Seattle under. I don't know if Geno Smith is playing. I don't know if Drew Lock is playing. I would almost rather Drew Lock play. He looked better than Geno has the last few weeks. Seattle looked decent against Dallas. They looked decent against San Francisco, but they lose both of those games, and now they get another big test at home where they haven't played that well. It's just a weird game. My prediction is a lot of points. They being Philly lets Seattle hang around, but ends up winning by 6 when all said and done. So that's what I got for you for Week 15. As always, guys, if you appreciate the content, the picks videos, all the stuff I do, a subscription to this account goes a long way, and it's free. Are you kidding me? Okay, so I appreciate that. If you're not subscribed and you wouldn't mind subscribing, I'm trying to get to 1,000. I'm trying to grow my channel, and I'm trying to make that moolah, baby. We'll see you next time.